Take two. Hope you can hear me. I did a 20-minute video, and then a couple of my friends messaged me and let me know that they couldn't hear a thing. That's always fun. One of those wonderful computer glitches. I'm sure I just set it up wrong. Wanted to talk tonight, now that everybody can hear me, about the different roles different professions play in accounting world, so to speak. One is the one we're most familiar with when we think of accountants, is the CPA. The thing to remember with CPAs is that they are essentially tax preparers. They usually have degrees specifically in taxation. It wasn't until I became an accountant that I found out you could get a degree, a master's degree no less, in taxation, just in taxation. That's these people. They are CPAs. They have at least a master's degree, and they have spent time studying for and sitting for the CPA exam, which is very, very similar in difficulty to a bar exam. You can kind of think of a CPA as an accountant who can represent you before the IRS or before your state tax commission as if they were an attorney, which is why they have to be certified public accountants. They are the top tier. They are top shelf. They are the most expensive by a lot. I prefer to recommend to my clients and my friends that they keep the CPA in an advisory role. Most of the time, most small businesses do not need to work with someone who is a certified public accountant unless they are having difficulties with taxation. So they are advisors. They are the most expensive option that you can have. The next one is an accountant who has not sat the CPA exam. Now, most accountants, again, have at least a bachelor's degree in accounting. And yes, there is 4 years of study worth of accounting to learn. Kind of watching my feeds to make sure that if there's any more problems, I find out about it right away. An accountant is someone, they just haven't sat for the CPA exam, usually is the case. They are very knowledgeable about your reports and about how to do things right. These are usually the people you find as company controllers, as CFOs, as kind of in charge of bookkeepers and accountants. So as you're looking for someone, you need to kind of, I guess it's all right. Your CPAs are your advisors. Your accountants can also be advisors. They are usually at the upper levels of management, helping to control where the money flows and whether or not it should be flowing there. There are also specialties within accounting. For example, one of my friends is a forensic accountant, and I've worked with forensic accountants. I think that's the most interesting field of accountancy. Forensic accountants are the ones that they go in and they are looking for fraud, shrinkage, and embezzlement. That's what they're looking for. They are the ones that can uncover any wrongdoing, which is pretty challenging to do. They're the ones that are double checking. They're auditing the books. And we'll talk in another video about what it means to audit. I have worked with several forensic accountants, and I love working with them. I love that field of accountancy. The first time I worked with one, I was working with a client who was going through a bad divorce, and his former spouse was taking him for a lot of money. And so we needed to prove that she was spending money faster than he could earn it, basically. So they subpoenaed her bank records, and he provided his bank records, and I kind of supervised a team of bookkeepers just entering the data. And then I worked with the lawyer and the forensic accountant to make sure that we interpreted it correctly, which was very much that she just likes to spend money, and she was high maintenance, and she was looking for a free ride, in my professional opinion. That's just one branch of accounting, is the forensic accounting. So if you are an attorney, it would probably be a very good idea to have a forensic accountant available to your clients, so that you know, as things come up and you need to find evidence of wrongdoing, the forensic accountant is the one that does that. And I'm hoping that my friend who's a forensic accountant kind of chimes in on this, because I would love to know if I'm missing anything. But that's what I really like about it, is this being able to look and find and uncover and untangle if someone has been stealing funds. They're also very good at locating shrinkage. Now, if you don't know what the term shrinkage means, it's usually in retail that they talk about this. This is losses due to shoplifting. It could be in a wholesale environment if you have employees taking tools and office supplies home, but it's usually, we talk about that in a retail environment of people that are shoplifting. They start to refer to that as shrinkage. Some shrinkage is normal. For example, if you're a grocery store and you sell perishables, well, you're going to have some shrinkage because the milk is going to age out, you know, and you can't sell it anymore. But there's also shrinkage due to theft. So it's important to stay on top of these numbers. Regular accountants, because I kind of got off on forensic accounting because I think it's interesting, but regular accountants are the ones that they're usually upper management. They understand what's going on with the money. They are very, very good at accountancy. They have a ton of experience generally. They may or may not have a degree. They may have a degree, or they may have equivalent experience. Now that's what I have, is I have equivalent experience. And they are able to, for example, they're able to pull certain reports and interpret that data in a way that makes sense to the business owner. At least we hope it makes sense. And then the next person down on the food chain is, so CPAs make the most, and then accountants make the next most. Enrolled agents are people who specialize in taxation that may or may not, and usually do not, have a degree in taxation. They are experienced tax professionals who have sat an exam before the IRS and have earned the right to represent their clients before the IRS. They may not have the right to represent those same clients before the State Tax Commission. So if you need someone who can represent you both at the state and the IRS level, get a CPA. If you just need someone to make sure you're clear with the IRS, get an EA. It's kind of, and these are very, you know, your mileage may vary. And then the bottom of the food chain, so to speak, is the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper is the day-to-day grunt work. They are the ones that will, you know, you find them sitting at their desks entering data. They are basically data entry clerks nowadays. They just take what's in the information that's in your bank account, the information that's on your receipts, they enter it into your financial software, and that's really as far as they go. They also reconcile your bank accounts so at the end of the month to make sure everything matches, but that's as much as they really can do. They do the day-to-day, quote, accounting operations. They may do accounts payable, and that simply means that they may pay your bills. They may do accounts receivable. Again, these are kind of clerk jobs. You don't usually have an accountant do accounts receivable unless they're supervising bookkeepers. And receivable is money that's coming into your business. Payables is money that's going out of your business. Or in other words, payables is making sure your bills are paid. So an accounts payable clerk and a bookkeeper, an accounts payable clerk, and an accounts receivable clerk can be the same person. But the accounts payable person is the one that makes sure that the bills are entered into the software as they come in, and who probably also cuts the checks when it is time for them to be paid. An accounts receivable clerk sends out the bills that, the invoices for the company to bring in their money, and she also will follow up with the people that she's billed to make sure the money has come in. She also has to apply those payments to the proper invoice so that she can go back and look and say who has paid what. Same thing for an accounts payable clerk. She has to mark those bills as paid so that she knows what's left to pay and when it's due. it's vital. So you're going to want to look at what role does the person that you want to hire, what do they need to perform for your business? If you just want someone who is going to do data entry and maybe send out bills and invoices, you don't need someone with a degree for that. You do need someone who knows what they're talking about. But I have worked with several accountants who have degrees that don't know what they're talking about. So you can't just go by a degree or a lack thereof to determine if this is the right person or the right fit. You do want to find out if they know what they're talking about. Sometimes it's a good idea to give them a couple of weeks to wow you. Sometimes it's a good idea to give them a test. The last company I worked with, we actually would give all of our bookkeepers a test. And I would be shocked many, many times at the ones that would come in for a second interview with me who could not pass the test. And I'm talking, the test was write a check in QuickBooks. And they said, oh, I'm a bookkeeper. And I said, okay, show me how to write a check in QuickBooks. And they would go, I don't actually know. And I would just kind of be, and I had the software open in front of them, and said, write a check for me. Because I was looking that they would at least have basic skills. And some of the women were, they remembered doing bookkeeping in ledgers, actual physical ledger books. And I remember doing books that way. That's how I did it for my grandmother's plumbing and electrical supply store. We used ledger books, like 11 columns wide to balance everything else. And we would have to carry these over from other ledger books. One that had her inventory in it, we would have to carry over to the main ledger. So I really, really learned accounting, mostly at my grandmother's knee. But you want to make sure that they at least have a general grasp. You also, if you are a business owner, you want someone who's a self-starter. You want someone who will actually follow through on the commitments that they're making to you. I am one of those people. I pride myself on that. I also pride myself on the ability to work myself out of a job. So, that's the kind of person that you want. You may have someone come in and observe their books and make sure that they are doing it correctly. If you're hiring a bookkeeper, the last thing you want is someone who takes shortcuts. Now, what do I mean by that? Excuse me, my allergies are kind of getting to me. There are two ways to do things. There is, you can do it right, or you can do it over. And I am not a fan of doing things over personally. I like doing things right the first time, and that means that it takes me a little bit longer. And I have had clients actually question me because I'll tell them, no, I enter everything into QuickBooks manually by hand. I type everything in, and they go, well, why? Well, because I've worked with bank feeds. And the idea of bank feeds is absolutely wonderful if they work. If they work, they're great, but my clients don't have time every week to sit down and fix the bank feeds. They don't want to do that. So I just, I get view access to their accounts. I can't move any money, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want any responsibility for their money other than showing them where it goes. And I will enter everything by hand. Sounds like a duplication of effort, right? And yet I have found that that is actually the fastest way to get accurate information into any accounting software. So if you're looking for a bookkeeper or an accountant for your business, first of all, decide what role you want them to play. You want an accountant to be a supervisor and a leader, and you want a bookkeeper to still be a self-starter. But a bookkeeper, they're data entry. They do not interpret data for you. Accountants do that. So if you find someone who can interpret data for you intelligently and knowledgeably, then you're talking to an accountant, whether or not they have letters after their name. That's kind of it for tonight. This is kind of take two. My previous feed had no audio, so we did it again. Tomorrow, I want to talk about how to tell if you have a good bookkeeper or an accountant. And then I also want to kind of cover now I've forgotten. It's 9 o'clock. But tomorrow I want to talk about how to tell if you've gotten a good bookkeeper. Not all bookkeepers are alike. Not all have been trained the same. Not all have the same philosophy. Excuse me. We do want to talk about how to tell if you've got a good one. Again, my thing is you do it right or you do it over, and I don't like doing things over. And what to do if you don't have such a great one. It does happen. I just hate to talk about that, but it does happen. I have worked with people who have master's degrees in accounting that do not know what they're doing when it comes to actually working in that field. They need experience. So like I said, that's it for tonight. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I will look forward to talking to you tomorrow.